It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Gary Kayye, and welcome to another edition of rAVe TV, the industry's only live TV show. We come to you every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we restream at noon because we know people in California are still sleeping. So if you want to watch us live in California, you can at 9 a.m. in California time, noon Eastern time. Because we're coming to you at 9 a.m., that means the rest of Europe is seeing us live. I want to thank you all for joining us. But I have a surprise for you. You're not going to just have to stare at me all day today because I have a guest host, and it's somebody that you know really, really well. So how about let's bring on our guest host really quickly here. It is Tim Albright from AV Nation. Tim, how are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. You sound good. You look good. Things going well with you?
Things are going well. It's 8 o'clock where I am, so not as early as the West Coast, but yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. You guys good?
Look. I'm doing good. Other than our friends on the western part of the state of North Carolina got nailed with a hurricane this past weekend, as I'm sure everyone has heard. It's all over the news, and we want to support them by recommending that we checked out all the donation sites. The one we feel most comfortable with is the Red Cross. So if you scan that QR code, we have a link directly to the Red Cross site where you can donate to help Western North Carolina. Red Cross is giving, obviously, blood, but most importantly, they're right now sending food and water. And water is the biggest problem because water will not be up and operational for a couple of weeks, Tim. Yeah. So this is a pretty bad disaster going on up there.
Yeah, it nailed a lot of infrastructure. And folks were listening to the news this morning, they were recommending folks that have needs, whether medical needs and stuff like that, evacuate if they can to another part of the state or a different state altogether.
Yeah, and it's going to be months before things even start to get back to normal. I have a lot of students that I teach who live in Western North Carolina. A number of them have gone home to help their families. The school is doing all sorts of things to try to help them as well. But I hope you all will keep Western North Carolina in your thoughts and consider donating to the Red Cross. Scan that QR code to get that information. We want to start the news today with a special guest, Tim. It's not only you as a guest host, but we have a special guest live on our show as well. Let's bring her on, Marion Corrigan. Marion, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? I survived the hurricane too, Gary. We're in the same situation down here in Florida. Definitely crazy. It's that time of year where everybody's just on edge always. So. I'm glad that you guys are okay too.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the state, so we weren't hit. And of course, no one expects a hurricane to go to the western part of the state.
No,
the coast, we're all expecting it, right? But to go 300 miles inland and to just wipe out an entire town. I'm sure you've been to Asheville, North Carolina.
I love it there.
It was completely wiped out. So Marion, in case you don't know, we have an interesting history together. Not only is she the worldwide channel sales lead for Microsoft Teams Rooms, which everyone watching this uses, but Marion and I were together literally the last professional event of the industry Marion put together, and it was a launch of a Windows collaboration board in New York City, literally the week the world shut down for COVID. Yeah. Isn't that weird, Marion? That seems so long ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, pretty life-changing moment right there that week. I remember that specifically, being in the elevator looking at my phone like, oh, they're shutting everything down. We might want to get a plane to get out of here.
Yeah, so, we were in New York City. It was at the Microsoft flagship store in New York City. It was an amazing event that you put together. And I brought you on today to ask you some questions because obviously Teams, y'all have done whatever you had to do right. I will say this, because before you were there, before Jimmy was there, Microsoft was number 2 in our industry. Zoom was number 1. Zoom Rooms dominated. Now, no question about it. Teams Rooms is number 1. It is the primary platform used by most of our customers as well. And now it's transforming itself. You'd have to be living under a rock, Tim, to not have heard the word or term AI. It's everywhere on the news. And Teams, Microsoft Teams integrated Copilot early on, which is Microsoft's AI platform for all the Microsoft suite. What are the most commonly used features of Copilot with Teams Rooms, Marin, and what can we expect in the future with regard to that specifically?
So when it comes to Copilot, overall, like Copilot in Microsoft 365 is something that you can basically get a license for and use within all your common applications like Outlook and Teams and PowerPoint and Word. And it's a great little personal assistant that you have in your pocket to say, hey, what did I miss in the first 10 minutes of this call? Or, hey,
Yep.
Can you help me take this conversation and turn it into a PowerPoint deck or a proposal? Those are two examples of what you can do, but specifically in the meeting room, it is super helpful to join together and put together like a common agenda at the same time, and then ask Copilot to take notes for you, which is amazing. And also, it just happened for the first time yesterday. I was assigned an action item by Copilot because I said I would do something in a meeting, and it automatically came to me in Outlook with a reminder at the end of the day yesterday, where I was like, oh, I did not get that recap email out to everybody like at 9 o'clock last night. I was like, oh, I got to check the box there on that one.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
it's listening to the meeting. It heard you take on one of the commitments that was talked about in the meeting, and then it noticed that you hadn't done it yet, and it sends you a reminder at the end of the day. Don't forget to do this.
Yeah, I think the team at the same time is also kind of like, while we're coming up with, this was a team meeting internal,
Yep.
and we came up with a list of things that we wanted to take action on, and we assigned them out like in the call. I think we all kind of agreed at the end of the call. There might have been somebody that went and just kind of checked the box. Yes, this is what we agreed on, but all of that was automated as action items at the end. And it's, do you want to turn these into prompts? Yes, we do. And it just automatically sends it. So it is honestly at the very beginning stages of how we possibly use it. It's very exciting. And it is probably the number one most used or liked aspect of Copilot altogether, but really exciting. So it definitely impacts the meeting room space specifically because it makes you more productive in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Well, we only have you for a couple more minutes, and I have two questions I definitely want to ask. One is, look, I'm a teacher. I would love to see Microsoft Teams Classroom. Like, you know how you did with the meeting rooms?
Yep.
I would love to see that same transformation in the classroom. Is there a shot we might actually see that?
I do think so. I honestly think it's probably further out, like more like 2025. There are a lot of great capabilities, and there are a lot of higher education institutions that are standardized on Teams and using it to facilitate all their classwork. So it is something that we've discussed, we've ideated on, we're working on what that might look like. So yeah, I think you could expect something there. And it makes sense. I think from most of the corporate world being on Teams, we want all of our education and learning environments to be on the same platform so that when you enter the workspace, you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and if you want some advice on that, feel free to reach out to me because
Absolutely.
I would love to see that brought to the classroom. And then here's a question from Tim. I don't know if Tim wants to ask himself, but I'm going to ask it since it's his question. Tim's a big fan of what you're doing with spatial audio. What other kind of features, and I'm going to put up a slide while you're answering this, because one of the things that we do at rAVe is we have a monthly feature on Teams, and in that we write about it every single month at ravepubs.com, and every month we have the slide deck that is provided by Microsoft of all the new functions and features added to Teams and Teams Rooms every single month. So what, in addition to spatial audio, and right now I think spatial audio you can only do if you have QSC from Control, I believe. But are there other features like that?
Yeah, I think we've got Yealink in the mix, and I think we've got two others. So the lineup is expanding for sure.
And what else will we see? Like spatial audio, I think is really cool. And if you don't know what it is, you should look it up. But it's logical for the front row application. But what else? What other kind of cool new features Tim wants to know?
So I think a lot of what we're seeing is around like automation. And Teleframe is what Microsoft is providing, where no matter what camera, obviously, if you've got a camera that's got AI capability on the edge to recognize the speaker, that's incredibly important. But for us to be able to do that in the cloud is even better because you can use the existing device that you have. The things that I like specifically, because we talked about Copilot earlier, if you're using something like that that's taking meeting notes, you absolutely have to know who's saying what? You need to be able
Yeah.
to do facial recognition. You need to be able to do voice transcription. So we're seeing that play out in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of new technology on the edge with all of our OEM partners coming to the table with speakers that are highly accurate. Like you don't want to mess up a word in transcription or things could kind of downstream look a little bit weird. You know, a lot of times we have meeting rooms that it's like meeting room participant A, B, and C, and you're not getting the value of AI when you've got things like that on the back end. So to me, that's probably the most exciting, but we've got a big event coming up, Ignite, in November that we usually hold back a lot of things for. There's new applications like Teams Copilot, where it's not your personal assistant, it's the group assistant, which is exciting. We've got Microsoft Places that's in beta right now that's doing, letting you know like who on your team is in the office that day. It's suggesting where you should be or what desk you want to book. So those are super exciting new developments. And obviously in the Teams room space, you know, from an equipment standpoint, there's a lot of better, improved direct S-join capabilities, simplifying extensibility so you can easily add ceiling mics, extended microphones at the table, etc. Adding accessories is getting a lot easier, and that's all to the great work of our OEM partners, which is fantastic.
And that certification program that you have is really simplified that.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So excellent. Well, I know you've got to go because you've got other commitments. I want to thank you for joining me this morning, and hopefully you'll kind of join us more often. And I would love to get a commitment from you to join us right after Microsoft Ignite. Is it Ignite? Is it
Ignite? Yeah, it's the week of November 16th.
Will you join us that next week and review
happy
everything you came out with?
Maybe join you from the show. We'll see. It'll be a busy, exciting week. Yeah. Jimmy will be there with me. We'll maybe try to set something up from the floor. That'd be fun.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Awesome.
We'll invite Tim back as well. Marion, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today. And
thanks, Marion.
Have a good day. And then Tim, did you watch my esports part 1 session that I did yesterday with Extron? So I did part 1 yesterday, and part 1 is tomorrow. So it's a 2-part how to get into esports. Part 1 was yesterday. You can go watch that if you want to watch part 2 and catch up. You can actually go to launch.com, lavnch.com, scan that QR code, and you can register for that. It's everything you need to know about how to get into esports. Part 2 is tomorrow at 2 p.m., Tim. I hope that you'll watch it because I'd love to have your feedback on it, Tim. It is CTS, CTSD, and CTSI certified. Tomorrow's session is. So you get all those CTSs. And I hope that you'll register because esports it's big. And in fact, one of the venues that we, a few of the venues we highlighted yesterday were done by CTI.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Very cool.
Your parent company.
No, so, and the thing, dude, it's esports is more than just, you know, stadiums and arenas and stuff like that, because you've got high schools and you've got colleges and universities putting these things in because it's a legitimate sports team, right? Yeah. People have scholarships now to be on esports teams. So yeah, it's a huge deal.
And in fact, for those that don't know, I mentioned this yesterday, the International Olympic Committee has replaced breakdancing with esports for 2028.
They need to replace it with something.
Well, they're going to replace it with esports, and the idea is to hopefully esports becomes that popular. NCAA has designated as a Division I sport now. Ohio State and 119 other schools have it as an athletic varsity program. Division I, Division II, and Division III. Last year's national champion was, I believe, West Point. So Army. The year before was Irvine, UC Irvine. So yeah, it's really kind of cool. It's a cool segment.
Well, and it's very cool, and you know, I am old enough to remember when my dad used to get on to me for playing video games, saying you could never make a career out of it, right? And I still remind him of stuff like that, especially when you've got, you know, streamers and you have, you know, video game players that are, again, getting scholarships and getting, you know, a substantial living playing video games.
Yeah, and in fact, tomorrow I highlight a kid who won the Fortnite tournament a couple of years ago. I guess he was 15 years old, maybe 16, won $3.1 million. So his parents, as soon as he finished, probably said, get down in the basement and play video games.
Yep.
They're not complaining about that anymore, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So maybe your dad should watch.
My dad should. I'll get on him to watch.
Oh, man. All right. Well, look, we can't do this show without companies like Legrand. Did you happen to see at Infocom or at CEDIA, Tim, Legrand, the daylight division, had the Myriad electric screen system, which has the drop and reveal. What did you think of that? That's a pretty cool system, isn't it?
It's a very cool system, and it's something that both integrators from the installation side, because it makes installation really, really easy. But the installation part that end users care about is the fact that because it's easy, you're not spending the labor it costs. Instead of like 10 hours to put in a screen, it could be an hour worth of labor. And so not only is it a really cool screen, but the ease of installation really does help everybody from the integrator all the way through the consumer.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what's nice is that you can actually do it as a drop-in replacement for all the screens that you have now. Let's run a quick video. That's like it's a demo that was shot on the show floor. That actually shows how it works. So let's run this piece for Daylight really quick as a thank you for. All right. So, Tim, I did you notice late last week that Google and HP have partnered to finally bring Starline, which is their immersive video call system, to the market? Have you seen that?
Well, I saw the news, and I think you saw it as well as at Infocom. The demo at Infocom, first of all, was very unassuming, right? It was not like there wasn't a ginormous, hey, this is a Google demo, right?
Yeah.
It was a very unassuming, nondescript box that you walked into.
Yeah.
But the experience was a little disorienting, but very cool once your brain kind of got your head around what was happening.
The concept, I guess, is real life video conferencing, like real life proportions.
Yeah, and it's a number of years ago, folks started talking about immersive conferencing, right? And folks were building these ginormous rooms where the tables kind of met up to the screen, and you would like you and I were right across the screen from each other. This is not necessarily that. This is a lot more immersive and a little bit more natural for your brain to process and kind of make it feel like you are, together.
Yeah, if Kayye, our producer, will put that picture back up, I think it'd be good, because what basically the idea is that you maybe one or two people sit across from each other, and you do have like a huddle space with a display, and you're getting this holographic-ish kind of looking concept, because you're getting more 3D perspective because of the way they're using shadows, sort of taking pieces from Hollywood to make that actually happen. But also at Infocom and at ISE, Logitech showed their Ghost product, which is an all-in-one room system, which is in that article as well. It's hard to tell from this what it is, but we have a video that actually shows this on the website. And what we want you to do is actually go to that article at ravepubs.com, because at the bottom of that article, we have videos of both Starline and Logitech's Ghost. We want you to vote on which one you like better. I'm curious which one, because one of them's an all-in-one room. In the case of the Ghost, it's a 10 by 10 room, and you build the whole room. They partnered with Orange Box, which is a division of Steelcase. And then in case of Starline, it's Google and HP, which is, as you all know, is formerly Poly. I guess they're formerly Poly, right? I mean, they're not Poly.
HP Poly, I think, is
Poly,
how they're calling it now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's, we want to know which system you like better. Either way, this is a new dawn of video conferencing in our market that, as you mentioned, 20 years ago, Life Size and Cisco showed systems like this that were in the $150,000 to $200,000 category. Plus, you had to have an ISDN line, which even the phone company didn't know how to put that in, which is ironic since they invented it. But now you can just use the bandwidth like we're using today.
Well, here's, at the time, you're right. It wasn't cost prohibitive because they did put a number of them in, but it was a higher end room. It was for typically an executive boardroom, executive conference room like that. These smaller spaces, the cost is dramatically less, and it does give you a different experience if you're having a 2-3 person huddle with somebody on the far end, whether that's a sales call, it's a training session. It's something where you need kind of that intimacy. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously this stuff is meant to go in the office space, which brings me to my next question, Tim, because you brought to my attention an article from Inc. magazine with regard to Amazon's return to office policy. You want to talk about that?
Go back to the office now.
Or else.
Or else. It was or else. The new CEO of Amazon said, okay, kids, we're going back to the office 5 days a week. Right. They were giving a little bit of leeway on how much time they're giving people to make their way back to the local space and the local geography to move back, because there are a number of people who did move away to various reasons. And it's interesting to me because, number one, Amazon is an online company, right? They are a virtual company, and they've proven that over the last 4 years. And others have followed suit. Everything from Google, who's making waves and have had some sort of return to office policy, Apple as well, and companies on down the line. You look at the Fortune 100 or even the Fortune 500. The vast majority of them have some sort of remote work policy. So my opinion is, I think that they are a bit short-sighted, Amazon now, because you're going to alienate and you're going to lose some quality people simply because you want them back in a physical space. I don't understand the reasoning, right? It's the same ones where it's culture, it's collaboration. We have proven that we can do that over the last 4 years. We have the technology. Things like Ghost and Starline is another way, another thing to point at for that collaboration and for that one-on-one, little more interpersonal communication. But we as a workforce have learned to work remote, and a lot of times we've actually thrived working remotely. Here at CTI, we have a 2-day work for remote policy. They'd like us to be in the office 3 days a week. That works, right? That is a really great compromise between the two. So I don't really understand this.
I have a thought on it. I have a thought. So Amazon made a big deal the last decade about where their headquarters are going to be, because they have distributed headquarters, right? They have obviously Seattle, but they built a brand new giant headquarters in Tennessee, which a lot of the states, including North Carolina, fought over. They built one in Texas, which a lot of the states, including Florida, fought over to get there. And I think that the issue, here's what I think, Tim. I think this comes down to the tax benefits of the states where you put these big offices. They made promises like we're gonna hire this many people in your state. We're gonna bring this much business to your state. And if those people are allowed to work anywhere, they don't have to be in Tennessee, for example. So they've got this big facility in Tennessee that's not populated. They may end up having to go back and pay tax money back to the state. And I have no knowledge, but I have a feeling that those kinds of big initiatives are driven financially at some level. And you are correct. We have proven that remote collaboration, we have the same policy where we come in twice a week. But I think it might be driven. I think it's possible it might be driven by that.
It's a good theory, dude, because there's a lot to be said, and a lot of those TIFs, those tax increment financing, and other tax benefits, those can rack up pretty into the hundreds of millions of dollars for those.
Look at Disney in Florida. Disney
in Florida,
take,
where you guys are, Apple is building a ginormous,
huge,
not headquarters,
second headquarters.
Yeah,
it is going to be a second headquarters, and they got huge benefits, like huge tax benefits for like 10 years. But they did make commitments on numbers and
how many employees,
average salary.
Yeah,
it's just a thought. But anyway, in industry news, Chief has delivered the tiled DV LED universal mount. Now this is a big deal because this is the first universal mount, so you can spec for no matter which LED system you're buying. You can spec one mount system to work with all the LED systems. I don't know if we have a story to pop up. It's number 9, but it's all it works with every LED system on the market. So what's nice about that, Tim, is you can spec. If you're an engineer or designer, you could spec this and not worry about, for example, if they're using nanolumens and they switch to Absent or whatever later on when the thing's actually installed. So that's delivering now. They introduced that at Infocom, and rAVe, who's another sponsor of this program, Tim, wants to remind you they're going to be at AVX 2024 on October 3rd and 4th, which is tomorrow and Thursday, or tomorrow and Friday at the Colorado Convention Center. They want you to stop by if you're there. They'll be doing live demos of their products, and of course, they have. They've kind of done a really good job targeting 3 areas: corporate, education, and healthcare. Those are the 3 kind of areas that rAVe is really targeted well with their PTZ cameras. But so Tim, I want to ask you about a story that you have on your website.
Yes.
That I thought was pretty dang awesome. I love your concept here. The headline is AV needs their own chips. Why don't you talk about that? And what part of your brain did that come from?
The dark recesses that remembers COVID. That's the one. So there was a story in the Wall Street Journal last week about Qualcomm kind of positioning themselves to purchase Intel. Right, that's the bottom line.
I saw that.
Right?
I thought, well, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
They sued each other so many years.
Absolutely, right, and they're still fighting, right? So, but they're positioning themselves to purchase Intel. That it hasn't gone through yet. It just one of these stories that folks put up, and I'm like, okay, if that happens, that is going to be a massive just downstream effect to the AV industry, because Intel makes a lot of chips that go into AV products. Stick with me for a second here, right? Qualcomm's going to come in, if they buy them, they're going to look at all their products, all the stuff that they make, and go, okay, there's this category over here. It doesn't make us a lot of money. It's more of a pain in the butt. I understand you sell millions of these, but the margins are low, whatever, right? And they'll cut it. And I've seen this happen before, whether that's CobraNet and the ending of that, or there's just technologies that we have as an industry have relied on. And I know this is 20, 30 years ago now. A story that our friends at Extron told me, they had a similar situation, right? Not exactly, but a similar situation where they were relying on a chip for a particular switcher that they had, right? And company got sold. The company that bought them said, we're not making this anymore. And Extron for a moment was stuck, and they said, you know what, screw it, we're gonna make our own chips. We can, as an industry, can do the same thing, right? We should examine, and we should try to investigate ways to rely on ourselves. HD-based does it. SDVOE made the ASIC, the ASIC
the ASIC Simtech
Simtech made it, right? Mold for their own chips.
You have Macnica. You have Macnica doing the IPMX chip.
Yeah,
right?
Macnica doing the IPMX with and that protocol, and so it's not unthinkable. And you couple that together with the recent history of COVID and the issues that we had, it's more of a, hey, gang, as an industry, folks that are relying on chips, and everything that we use now relies on chips. Either it's a consortium or it's a few folks getting together. Go out and get your own chips. Like, get your own company and find ways to make your own chips.
Yeah. I like it. I like the concept. I think you're thinking smartly. We don't want to put ourselves in a bad situation.
No.
So yeah, read that story, scan the QR code. It's going to take you straight to that story on avnation.tv now. I also want to mention that there's a story on our website that HP, which we just talked about, just purchased Viopta. And Viopta is known for the UC Analytics platform. So they're doubling down on the UC Analytics. And I think that's an interesting purchase. So, this segment of the market is going to be mighty competitive, Tim, as we go forward. Companies like Shure are doing a great job in this segment of the market in the collaboration space.
Oh, yeah.
But one product that I'm personally really interested in, and they're finally shipping it, is the Microflex wireless Next 2 system, which is an all-in-one microphone system for higher education specifically. Watch this piece here, because I think if you're in the higher education space, it is an awesome drop-in mic system for any classroom you currently have without having to go back and redo your rack.
The Microflex Wireless Next 2 is an all-in-one audio solution for meeting rooms, training rooms, and lecture halls. It makes it easy to configure audio for events that include both local and remote participants. It's really 4 components in one: a state-of-the-art wireless microphone system, a smart charging station, IntelliMix digital signal processing, and a fully equipped audio interface. Despite its comprehensive feature set, MXW Next 2 is easy to set up in minutes with just one push of a button. Automatic frequency management finds open channels and avoids interference without interrupting the audio. Multiple interfaces make it simple to connect to a computer, sound system, and recording equipment. Onboard IntelliMix DSP eliminates annoying distractions and delivers a pristine audio mix for both in-room and remote participants. Body pack, handheld, or boundary microphone transmitters run all day long and drop into charging bays so they're always ready to use. The MXW Next 2 all-in-one wireless system is the next step in audio for hybrid events.
That's a really cool product, and in fact, we have a podcast special coming down the pipeline with Aaron Neiman from Shure about the Next 2. It's part of our partnership with you guys in the AV Buyers Club. So look for that in the next week or so on avnation.tv and on AV Buyers Club.
Yeah, so AV Buyers Club which is our end user facing publication, and AV Nation have partnered together to grow the industry by growing the number of end users coming in the industry. One of our partners is Shure. And so that podcast is all about that, and that product is squarely aimed at end user because it's sort of great retrofit product. We have a case. Speaking of end users, we talked about this earlier too, Tim. We have a case study of the week that's all about esports, and in fact, in my esports show tomorrow, I talk about this particular case study, which is the Compton Unified School District. In one of their schools in Southern California, they actually put an esports facility in the middle school there, and it has transformed that school district, and they're now going to do it district wide. And that's not the rich school district in LA. That is the poorest school district in LA. And it's made a huge difference because kids that were, that didn't have anywhere to go after school are now able to go to play esports, and they've not only formed a club, but also a team. And so you can learn all about that on our website at ravepubs.com. Scan that QR code, and we'll take you directly to the case study on the Extron website. So yeah, Tim and I are big believers in esports. I think you'll hear more from us on that as time goes on. And Tim, I hope you're going to join us, Tim, for Launch Week 10, which is coming up later on this month. I mean, it's already October. Can you believe it? The 21st through the 24th. Is that right? 21st to the 24th? Is it 5 days? For some reason, I thought it was 4 days. But from the 21st to the 24th, we're going to offer Launch Week 10. And is it 4 days? 21, 22, 23, 4 days. I cannot count today. It's 4 days. And we have an Ed Tech Day. We have an emerging, I think, day, a Pro AV. No, we have a Home AV Day, Ed Tech Day. We have a experiential signage day, which most people still call digital signage. And then we have a Pro AV day, Tim, we got to get you on that on a couple of those days because, and you know, by the way, if you're a manufacturer out there and you want some exposure, you want leads, this is a great way to get them. But if you're an integrator, you're an end user, and you're interested in any of these categories, you're interested in the high-end residential, that day, Home AV Day is going to be we're co-partnering with CEDIA, the association, to bring that day to you. We're partnering with VIXA on Pro AV Day. So we're doing great partnerships here, and we want you to be part of it. It's sort of like an online, I don't want to say trade show, like an online conference.
It's 4 days of immersive education too, because you've got CTS credits coming, and it's a great way to not only learn but also collaborate with other people in the industry because you can chat back and forth through you guys' launch platform. Yeah,
and you can get 10 CTS RUs for staying. In fact, it's only a couple hours a day, 3 hours a day, and you don't have to stay.
Don't say that like it's just some throwaway. That's 10. That's a third of what you need to get your CTS renewed.
That's true.
In 1 week. That's a huge deal.
That's a good point. Well, look, I appreciate you co-hosting because it would be a lot more boring if they were just watching me. And but
anytime.
No offense, but Steph is better looking than both of us and more interesting than both of us. So I think people would much rather see Steph here and her bubbly personality, which we cannot duplicate. There's just no way. But she's on vacation. She has to have a vacation every once in a while. And she's actually in Savannah, Georgia. Hanging out, and I encouraged her to read Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil before she went. So she says she read it, which is a great book, and maybe she'll go explore some of the sites covered in that book, which is a great mystery book.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway,
well, cool.
Look, I saw Beetlejuice the other night, Tim. I really liked it. That scene there, have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay, it is worth. It is super creative.
Okay,
very creative.
I would expect that.
There's a scene where they're dancing in the church. I don't want to tell you much about it, but it is like it's like 5 minutes long. It's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie. It is just so cool. And it's the brain that created that concept must be just interesting to hang out with.
He looks interesting to hang out with. If you've never seen a picture of Tim Burton, go Google it. He looks interesting.
Yeah. And Winona Ryder did a phenomenal job. I mean, she came back and Michael Keaton came back. I mean, Bob came back. It was really interesting movie. I highly recommend Beetlejuice. You can't say it three times, right?
I am not saying it 3 times.
And by the way,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you have an Alexa, say it 3 times to your Alexa and watch what happens.
Oh, I will do that. Do I have to say, "Hey Alexa," then Beetlejuice?
I think so. Yeah, you probably have to do that. Yeah.
Did you know they're gonna do Goonies too, with the original?
How are you gonna do Goonies too?
It happens like 30 years later, or 40 years later.
All right.
I love Goonies.
Yeah.
Yes,
I love Goonies too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's because we're old.
I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm looking forward to Joker 2 coming out with Lady Gaga in the headline role as his girlfriend. So Harley Quinn. I'm very much looking forward to that. So
yeah, the last movie I saw, I went to see Wolverine and Deadpool. So, and that was
what Deadpool
and Wolverine.
Yeah, well, that's those are always going to be good. Look, Tim, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Carrie for producing, and everyone have a great day. Bye.
It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.